Cultural anthropology. Originally, I was going to make a video about cultural differences. I've really been doing my homework. I always felt like I was different from a lot of people around me, and I had to do some research on it. I even spoke to the head of the anthropology department at Florida Atlantic University. Also emailed a lot of people. And the anthropology lists the different kinds of societies we had, which went all over the world and then turned into cultural differences geographically. We had hunter-gatherers, we had tribal and nomads, agrarian, and then we had the interdependent, collectivism, hierarchical, individualism, egalitarian, gleaners, pastoral, tribal and nomads, I mentioned before, Neolithic and industrial. And I was noticing that I just went to France and Italy really briefly, but Europe is so different from the United States. And I was making a note that for the same occasion, a person in Europe might dress like this, where an American would dress like this. So I looked at other countries. I really love Japan. And here's Japan versus the Netherlands. They are hierarchical versus egalitarian. Here's Nigeria and South Africa. I worked with some Nigerians, and the Nigerians have a lot of financial global activities, including Bitcoin. And then South Africa right now is focusing on music and dance, and Tyler won a Grammy Award. She uses that fierce face. I don't think any other place in Africa makes a fierce face like that. I was comparing Portugal versus the Anglo-Saxons. Now, this is Cristiano Ronaldo and his 5 kids and his extended family. I noticed the same thing with a family from Santo Domingo that was my neighbor. But the Anglo-Saxons, the couples tend to stick together with whatever they're going through. Then I was looking at my dad's culture. My dad was born in Havana, Cuba. And then the research showed me that Cubans have willingness to be hospitable. My dad really was very hospitable. We used to have a bar on wheels that we'd bring out for when people would come and sit and enjoy our front porch and chat and joke. And there were some other things listed: direct eye contact, generosity, and kindness. Cubans have some taboos. And I looked at Indian culture, and they have interdependence, humility, respect. They're non-violent, and they had some taboos about your left hand. It means you should use your right hand. And I like to watch Rishi Sunak. Now, hunter-gatherers, I noted that white Americans are hunter-gatherers and the African Americans are also hunter-gatherers. So they like leadership and social controls. Now, cultural anthropology indicates that people around the world live so differently. The question is, what do they have in common? So we're looking at the things people have in common and also the differences. Cultural anthropology is about how people think and act in different settings, and the complicated ways people make meaning in their lives. When you make meaning in your life, it's choosing to be what you think is your authentic self. I was so fortunate to come across Andrew Bustamante on YouTube. Andrew Bustamante was recruited to be a CIA agent. He was going to go to the Peace Corps, and they grabbed his resume. He went through the training, and now he's talking on YouTube. He has a lot of videos, and I watched a lot of them. The best ones were about the left brain and the right brain. When things first happen, we react with our right brain, and we have to stop and let the left brain kick in and help us with the rules around us. Although this picture here says that he's telling us how to live outside the rules, I don't really think that's the right. Somebody put that label on there, but I don't really, from the videos I've watched, I think he's debating how to live. And we need debate in life. We need to have an open mind because there's so many different cultures coming to the United States and to Florida Atlantic University where I am right now. We're all trying to learn and debate and be our authentic self. So I want to thank Andrew Bustamante. Now, China is the rising world power in the world, and I found out that the culture of China and how they kowtow to each other is a sign of courtesy and dignity. And China, the culture is very focused on family, hierarchy, and harmony. Now, presently, China is prepared to do trade wars and currency wars with USA, but the media will blow that up. But what we have to remember is that China failed twice at industrialization. So though they're working really, really hard to catch up with the United States, but the words seem to be coming out wrong or coming out in an extreme manner. Now, here in the United States, I was watching Rihanna. She's somebody always in the media, and I always look at the treatment of women. And I have 5 sisters. Two of them are full sisters, 3 are half sisters. But I also grew up with 3 cousins, so it's like growing up with 8 women. And I watch what happens to women all the time, and I'm worried about what's happening in the United States. I noticed that Rihanna had a lot of publicity when Chris Brown beat her up and did that facial mutilation on her. I was trying to find out the roots of some of the problems, why the value system was really eroding, and there's a lot of disrespect for women. And especially in the case of the O.J. Simpson case, I don't know, she was a white woman, and when you ask people questions about it, the blacks say she was doing drugs and the whites don't speak about it. But this a woman is killed and nobody was charged. So I feel like the alarm went off. So I looked a little closer at this case, and I also have a case, and I contacted the FBI because I had people enter my property even with the alarm. I hear that some people can disarm the alarm on your house in order to enter your property, but they did damage. So I don't know if this happened to Nicole too, but I just think we ought to build awareness in the world about anything that's happening. So here's Tyler from South Africa. She using an expression, it's a flex, regarding her music and dance culture of South Africa. And so we see something different right here. Just in Africa alone, we have this flex, the facial expression, and other cultural oddities, and the difference between Nigeria and South Africa. So I was just making tables about my own background and the things that impacted my life. And I was hoping to get it right now. So that's why I was taking a closer look at it. But I also looked at my personal values and my core values, and I realized that the Jehovah's Witnesses who came to Jamaica in 1967 really did affect my core values. Your core values are the ones that you have at 10 years old. So they did affect me. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness anymore. And then by 21, you have personal values. So I think that the high school in Jamaica, we have Cambridge University, high schools in Jamaica. So it was a little difficult process, your high school exam and everything. We're also in a school for girls, Anglican school for girls. And so my personal values were also shaped by that Anglican school for girls only. Then I looked at Jamaican schools in general. We have a lot of uniforms, and they like to use belts and canes to spank the children. That's another picture of Jamaican school, elementary school. My mother's house is right in front of the elementary school I attended, but I must say of note is that the principal of my elementary school, her daughter became the first female PhD in engineering, and she has a space company and a nonprofit. So I'm also looking more closely at my son. I did not really try to enforce my cultural differences when I was married, because being a Jehovah's Witness was more important than being my authentic self at the time. But my son tested gifted when he was 6 years old at Hagen Ranch Elementary School. And Jamaicans value education. And so I look back at my son's life, and my son is dead now. But I never was given the test for gifted. And I also note that my nephew was also a gifted child. And here he is. After he got his first scholarship to the University of the West Indies, he became a gynecologist. Then he got a Rhodes Scholarship and he went to Oxford in England, among other universities. And he came back and thanked his high school. So this is the kind of relationship you have to education, the educational system, your ambition, and that's your personal values and your core values, but more importantly, your personal values, which will allow you to become a Rhodes Scholar. So I'm bringing my son up again. Most of my videos are dedicated to my son, because I realized when my son was a little child, he was at my mother's house, which is in front of the elementary school, and he's sitting here with his great-grandmother. I saw my great-grandmother as a child too, but we had a little bit of interdependence in our family, a little bit more closeness than most family, because my family had a restaurant, bar, and bakery. My cousin was the chief of police, and my mother worked for the police department. But my dad was Cuban. That's of note. But my dad introduced a few things into our life, like Cuban food and Spanish. So here's my son safe in Jamaica, and he was very happy. My family sent me this picture. I put the circles on it because I think it's so wonderful. And for me, I have an overwhelming emotion that I should have left my son there with his great-grandmother in that house, because my mother, who worked for government her whole life, had help in the house. And that person would have been able to watch my son as he crossed the street to go to the elementary school. These three boys, two of these were gifted. One is a PhD in neurosurgery now, and my son is dead. So this is the LinkedIn page of my nephew, who is a PhD in neurosurgery. That's his LinkedIn page. This is the newspaper article about the bright futures of my two sons, because, like I said, my son tested gifted at 6 years old. Then we go to the O.J. Simpson case, and you want to investigate both things. We want to investigate my son's death and I think it's outrageous government conduct, because I think the government was in my house and put leaks in the kitchen. However, the O.J. Simpson case, nobody was charged, and nobody was charged with vandalizing my house, and I have some new charges which I want to bring. I feel that this situation where nobody's charged in a woman's murder is a sign that the United States is really devaluing women. We're degrading women, and we're not thinking of a woman's life as important because nobody was charged. I don't want to throw my anger onto this video, but August 8, 2023, I had evidence of some kind of gang situation, and I don't know the roots of it and if it will end. And I am going to try to be upwardly mobile, so maybe these kind of gangs won't impact me. I have a whole other video about what happened August 8, 2023, which I experienced in the northernmost part of Palm Beach County. I went up there to kind of get a fresh start, just working a menial job from 7 to 12 and working online from 1 to 6 because that's my MO. I work 2 or 3 jobs. That's a whole other video. I don't want to go through the details here because this is about cultural differences. But I guarantee if a Jamaican person was a police officer or a Jamaican person work with you, they would not bully you and they would not do the kind of social controls that hunter-gatherers do. Hal Draper spoke about it. They do a lot of ridicule and different social controls, but that's a different video. This is my family in Jamaica. We had a Christmas dinner every year. He was the chief of police. She had a restaurant, bar, and bakery. And we had a few friends of the family also attend. This girl right here was adopted from rural Jamaica, and she went to high school in Jamaica. She now has 2 master's degrees and married to a judge. So she turned out really, really well. Because when you look at this table, you can see they taught us also courtesy and dignity, the way the table setting was set up. I'm just trying to describe about people's background and their values. So I feel like when those Jehovah's Witnesses came into the airport and came to my parents' house is close to the airport. Those Jehovah's Witnesses give you a watchtower and a wake, and they try to make all the Jehovah's Witnesses alike. Give you an interpretation of the Bible to shape the way all Jehovah's Witnesses live, act, and behave. And it was in conflict with my Cuban and Jamaican culture. The Jehovah's Witnesses invite me back and I thank them because I think they're sheep and they gave me some good values when I was 10 years old. But it's not for me, and the collection of interpretations they have, I cannot embrace that anymore. It took me 57 years to get over that brainwashing. This was my Anglican high school for girls. And the Jehovah's Witness organization almost separated me from my friends here because when they had independence, birthdays, and Christmas, I could not participate. So that will separate you from your friends. It's mentally it's not good because people need support systems. Interdependence is something that makes people stronger. I studied French in this school because I intended to go to university in Canada, but instead I came here to be with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Cultural differences do cause conflicts in relationships, teams, and families. It causes misunderstanding, conflicts, appropriateness may be different, beliefs are different, definitions are different, compatibility may not be possible, thinking is different, order is different volatility in the United States. Issues about dominance between women and men will be different. Passivity is different in other cultures. Aggression is different in other cultures. Avoidance is different. Distrust, contempt, and a lack of mutual respect are some of the things that you find different in different cultures. So we have to have awareness, and Andrew Bustamante, former CIA agent, trains us to stop and use our left brain when conflicts arise. Of course, a lot of Americans and the media talk about your authentic self. Your authentic self is who you are at your core, and it's the most genuine expression of yourself. This is just a picture from my latest business video. I studied business at FAU for 10 years in the evenings. I changed my major from computer programming to management and attended FAU. And my goal is to be my authentic self, which is to align my values and my background with my actions and every part of my life. And I want to move forward. I have a lot to say, and it is on YouTube. But I don't want to rehash this thing about anthropology, cultural differences, core values, or personal values anymore because it's a waste of time to repeat yourself over and over again. But I have been talking to an international criminal court. Actually, a corporate attorney told me how to contact international attorneys. A lot of things have happened, and I see no reason why there will be an improvement right away in the situation. But I was trying to tell Washington to understand because Washington, there's a country that wanted to file charges against the United States at The Hague, and Washington was threatening a war. And then Washington was just talking about the international court and the war with Israel and Palestine. And it looks like, to me, it looks like the United States doesn't want to be under the microscope.